So let's start with the obvious. How the hell did you come, or how the hell did Dictos come to be? Did the title come first, or the Ten-Toed Curse?
Yeah. You're the first person to ask this to me who I've never met before. I'm so used to talking about this movie with people involved with involved with the project. So it's fun talking to, we just started shooting. We did day 3 yesterday.
Oh
And
wow.
it's funny hearing people I don't know say out loud Dictos. So yes, it's funny. 24 years ago yesterday, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, my first feature film, was released, had its world premiere here in Ottawa, Canada. And that was just like this film. The title came first. 26 years ago, maybe 27 years ago, I was in a car with my writing partner, Ian Driscoll, and he came up with the 4 words, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. And I said, wow, that sounds like a good movie. Let's go make it. And we did. This time around, I was making a film called Enter the Drag Dragon, my drag queen movie, drag queen kung fu action comedy horror musical movie. We released that last year. But while during production, I knew this guy who wanted to be in the film very much. His name was Elliot Fauquier, and I was at a bar with him, and I told him how I was looking for I in that film I needed 2 more villains. So at the end of the movie they could have a fight scene and it would make the fight a little bit more exciting. I needed 2 more villains, and I spent weeks figuring out these 2 new villains, and I cast them. And I was telling him the story, and he's like, "You know what? You should have a character named Dictos in that movie." And I'm like, "That should have been one of the villains." And I got really mad at him. I was like, "Where were you 2 weeks ago? That's a great idea, but now those roles are cast, and I, we changed conversation." And I walk a lot with my dog, and I couldn't stop thinking about Dictos, which is a funny sentence to say out loud. And I kept thinking of it, so I figured out in our last film how to have 2 scenes with Dictos. So Dictos has already been on screen in a different movie. But going to screenings, that was everyone's favorite character. And I had a foot molded with Dictos on them for close-ups. And I would bring it to screenings and I would show people. I also had a character named Cuntfoot. And I had 2 feet molded, and people loved looking at them. And I thought, you know what, we should make this movie. So I got to give credit to Elliot for putting those 2 words together. And now here we are, 3 days into making a film about a private detective who has 10 dicks for toes.
Yeah, with something like this, the log line reads from like a midnight fever dream. How do you walk that line of absurdity and coherence when building a story like this? Because with the Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, like I felt like that film kind of it is absurd, but it does definitely still it's coherent enough that the narrative is present, and scene goes from scene to scene to scene in order to get to the finale. I just feel like with Dictos, it just seems so almost too absurd to get to that point. Is there a method to the madness, or does it just kind of work that way for you?
Love that question, and I think about it a lot. I remember I just watched a movie called With Nail and I. I can see you're a big home physical media collector.
Oh
So am I.
yeah.
It's big to me, and I love 4Ks, and I've always loved Criterion. And they just released for the first time on Blu-ray a 4K last week, with Nail and I and How to Get Ahead in Advertising. And I haven't seen those movies since they came out. And so watching, Love with Nail and I, but at the end, the director talks about how he thinks the film works. He thinks it's funny. It's so absurd, but he thinks it's funny. And I guess he pertains to all of his films that if anyone laughs on set, it's not going to be funny in real life. And you got to sort of, you know, you make a real movie out of it. And I tell my actors, let's play it straight. Play it straight. It'll be funny. So Elliot, who plays Dictos, and Natalia, who plays the sidekick of the movie, they're hilarious. They're hilarious characters in my life, and I love to put my friends in movies that I think are very interesting. My wife thinks it's crazy. She thinks I surround myself with foolish people, but I love these foolish people, and I think I like them because I feel like I'm in a movie when I'm hanging out with my friends. So Elliot is best. You know what? I took an acting class with him. One of the best advice I ever got from a filmmaker. This guy was younger than me when I started making films with him. He told me, Lee, I took an acting class, not because I want to be an actor. I want to learn how to speak to actors. And 20 years later, I always thought that's really great advice. It took me 20 years to get to it. So Elliot and Natalia, who played Dictos and Gorch in the film, I took an acting class with them last winter, over the winter, and it was great. And again, comedy's hard. Comedy's hard to skate
Yeah.
because you can make each other laugh, but it doesn't mean that you're making the person on the other side of the camera laugh, the audience. So play it straight, and you just take an absurd sequence. Sequences of events. You take something so absurd and you play it like it's real, like and then that's what's funny, I think. I think if Elliot walked around saying, "Oh, I'm dick toes. Look, I've got 10 dicks for toes." I know that might be funny to us, but I don't know if I'm going to sell tickets. So it's hard to skate. I don't, we'll tell you'll be, it's up to you to find out if we've been successful or not. Because once the film is made, it's no longer our film, it's your film. So we're going to try. We're going to try to skate that fine line.
Well, just kind of digging a little further into you and your filmography, I can definitely say you're one of the masters of that line because Harry Knuckles is it's exactly what you described to a T, like going all the way there, but still keeping that straight face. So
Yeah.
if that's any, I guess foreshadowing as to what we're getting with Dictos, I mean, there's a reason to be excited. Now, with
Thank you.
with this process and this particular production, uh, I think my notes said you're shooting in Ottawa, Montreal, LA, and even some of the zombie meccas, Evan City, Monroeville. Is there anything particular that, I mean, obviously we know about the meccas, but like as far as the other locations, is there any reasons or that you were drawn to these specific locations?
No one's asked me that question. That's so cool. And I'm really excited I can't tell if I'm really excited to tell you why we're going to Evans City and Monroeville, or let it play out in the movie. Let's just say that the lesbian vampire population in Ottawa wants to resurrect Dracula.
Oh,
And one of my favorite things about Night of the Living Dead, the 1968 Romero film, is that there's no explanation why the dead come back to life. They're just there. But I spent a lot of time watching that movie, as I can tell you do too, because anyone has a collection like that behind them. You know, it always the same movies always come up in conversations when you meet someone new and you who loves movies and you talk. There's a few movies that always come up almost as like religion, like one of the chapters of the Old Testament. And Night of the Living Dead, I think, is one of those movies where
couldn't agree more.
we all know it inside and out. And in a way, that movie is like Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ, the New Testament and the Old Testament is divided by the birth of Jesus. And horror cinema is, changed after Night of the Living Dead. So once that movie was released, everything like just became different. So thinking back, I've been watching the movie a lot lately, and there's no explanation given, but I sort of fantasized about there's these two paintings over the mantelpiece in the film, in the
Mhm.
house, all movie set in the house. And my fantasy is that these two paintings, when they're brought together, is what brought the dead back to life. So now I have prints of both those paintings. I've acquired them through auction and sellers. There was 8 of each painting made, and so in our film, the vampires want these two paintings because they're told when they're brought together can bring the dead back to life. So they're hoping to use these two paintings, these two props from Night of the Living Dead, brought together to resurrect Dracula. And so that's our sort of uh, love letter to Romero, and turning what he made into our science fiction. You know what I mean? I got excited about that over over the pandemic, I walk my dog a lot, and I met this dog owner who loves going to auction houses and looking for props that are for sale, but we never bought anything because it's scary.
Yeah.
Both married men, and you spend that kind of money, you're not going to be married for long. But I found two prints inexpensively, and I thought, it'd be really fun to work into this narrative, this idea that these are the two paintings when brought together brought the dead back to life. So I thought it'd be fun to go down to Evans City and shoot on location some of these locations, to sort of make it feel real. Not only is Dicto's a sequel to Enter the Dragon in some respects, it's a sequel to Night of the Living Dead in some respects, with a lot of respect given to the Romero film. I knew Romero. I met him a few times, and I knew him by name, which was nice. He's buried in Toronto, Canada, which is crazy.
Oh,
Is
wow.
he's, I think of his American masterpieces. It's wild that he's here, and I've gone to visit him a few times. So he's buried in Canada. So if he ever comes back to life, George Zombie will be Canadian. Anyway, I
That
told you I've never told anyone that whole story, part of our story, but I'm really excited about it, and excited to tell people like you about it, because I can tell that movie is very meaningful to you and me.
Well, it's interesting to me because it like kind of extends the lore.
Yeah.
I love the idea of like taking something that exists and expanding it in your own way. And like that's kind of why like I don't know, that's one of the things that really got me into film, even as a kid, like
Yep.
the reimaginings of classics, and like even kind of goes far back as Disney. So to kind of hear you not only like putting your own spin on it, but like complimenting it in a way is such a unique take, because you wouldn't really think that with a film that's titled Dictos, like
I know we're taking this movie very seriously, but you make me think of like Raiders of the Lost Ark. When I was a kid, I think I was particularly drawn to it because I found out the Ark of Covenant is a
yeah, yeah.
real thing in the Bible, and then Spielberg and George Lucas sort of just took the story and made it their own, and that was really fascinating, and learning. I was young, I was 10 when that movie came out, and all of a sudden I cared about things that were in the Bible because of that film and the sequels, and then you sort of become aware of how people reappropriate things, and that's all I know how to do as a filmmaker. I
Yeah.
don't really have much to say as an artist. I just let me make movies and let you know how much I love movies. And maybe there's a mirror there. I love watching movies where I know the filmmaker, the guy behind the camera loves movies too. Maybe some of the same movies I do. Even filmmakers like Sean Baker, who just won the
Mhm.
Academy Award for Anora. Do you follow him on Instagram? He loves the kind of movies we love. He
Yeah.
loves the movies that are coming out from Severn and Vinegar Syndrome, and that thrills me that he designed the character Nora. A lot of it is inspired by Vampiros Lesbos, and
Hmm.
that's, to me, that's like what you just said. It's like he's making a film, but he's drawn to cinema the way we're drawn to the same kind of like trashy movies. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
it's fun. It's kind of adds another element to it, and like kind of going off what you're saying too is that not everyone is going to understand that reference, but for the people that do, in your film, it's going to mean that much more to them, and
yeah, yeah,
it's
100%.
fun. It's fun. Like
And it keeps me passionate
yeah,
about this
exactly.
silly movie. I can stay passionate, and I like to think that it exudes in the actors.
Yeah, like I work in production through academia, and anytime that I can make like a little weird or odd reference, I totally do it, because the only even if I'm the only one that gets a kick out of it, at least I know that I did
Very satisfying. It's very
it.
satisfying to make yourself happy.
Yeah,
That with having a dog, it's your own happiness is very important. We're going to live to be 100, you and I,
yeah.
because we keep ourselves very happy with outrageous passion.
Well, kind of back on the like with the production and the process. I know that with Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, you kind of did that over a series of years, like over weekends and things. And
Mhm.
from what I'm reading, that's kind of be the same idea with Dictos. Um, I'm curious, and this kind of goes back to Jesus Christ as well, but with those types of projects where you're working over long periods of time, how do you maintain momentum on a film like that? Like, I know it's fun for you, and I mean it can be daunting. Obviously, any production is daunting, but does that unpredictability, does that add to the fun, or is that a part of the fun ultimately?
It makes it exciting. I gotta kind of wish, and I get the best way I can put it is I wish you could meet my friends. I see them a lot. I said, and I'm making new friends too. And I'd like to think, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a 2 or 3 year process trying to get this film made because we're financing it myself, and we're trying to
Yeah.
make the best movie we can make over a long period of time. And to me, it feels like 5 minutes. This 3 years will feel like 5 minutes, but everyone involved, it is a long process. But a lot of them now have done it for the second time. Elliot worked on Dictos, sorry, Enter the Dragon, so did Natalia. A lot of people, I've got people involved in the movie who worked on Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. So a lot of those people understand it's going to take a long time, but it's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yesterday we drove to Kingston, Ontario to shoot this scene at a penitentiary. We drove 2 hours to get there, 2 hours to get back. But it felt like a vacation. The actors said to me, I felt like I just had a vacation. We weren't making a movie. And that, when I hear them say that, that's the momentum I need to keep going. It's the fuel in the tank that they're excited, and it's also this level of commitment everyone's putting into it, from people in front of the camera and behind the camera. It's really inspiring for me. That's my momentum to keep going. I owe it to them now. I owe it to everyone involved in the movie to make the best film we can make and finish it. I think a lot of people are just happy that the film is getting finished. I think, or there's at least a sense of that. Maybe I'll fly to my convertible tomorrow. But I remember Ian Driscoll, who made we were making Harry Knuckles together, did an interview, and he said, I get the feeling I'm surrounded by people who are actually going to make a movie and complete it. And that was nice to hear. And I think that's fuel in the tank. You should meet my friends because when they're on set, they're having so much fun. It feels like a dream come true. We're not making a movie on the level of Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, James Bond, anything like that. But the passion on set feels like that. Everyone's, and involving friends gets you a long way. Especially, I have a recommendation. Cast as many bartenders as you can in a movie because bartenders will be serving drinks for 2 years while you're making this movie, and everyone they pour a drink for will say, "Hey, I'm going to be in this movie coming out." And when you have your premiere in your hometown, it'll be sold out because bartenders will tell everyone to go.
That's
I don't
genius.
know. Thank you. And no dicks on set. We have no one really. We're not really involving anyone who's going to put us down. Because we're all just having fun doing it. That's what it is. I feel like I'm not a musician, but I have musician friends who get together on the weekends in their garage
Yeah.
and jam together, and that kind of reminds me of what we're doing. We're getting together on the weekends and making a movie, and we're pretending to be real filmmakers.
Well, I mean, with this film, you've ensembled quite the cast, or assembled quite the cast of underground and cult figures. Like, so not only do you have these people behind the camera, but you have them in front as well. Were you looking for, particular types of actors, or like to bring this bizarre world to life, or did it kind of just happen based on your friends and who you're surrounded by?
My friends and who I'm surrounded by is a big, big factor.
Yeah.
Like when I met Phil, who played Jesus Christ, who played Harry Knuckles before he played
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I just knew he should be in front of a camera because you should see when he's at the bar, the way people light up when they see him and they want his attention. People are drawn. People who get in front of my camera, I can tell they draw people into their personality, the way they are.
Yeah.
Uh, you watch enough movies, when you watch a Humphrey Bogart movies, his early movies, you can tell he's going to be a megastar. It's no wonder people like John Wayne or Montgomery Clift or behind Katharine Hepburn. There's no wonder they became movie stars because they're just so charismatic. And I think that's what I'm drawn to. There
Yeah.
is someone I'm involving in this film I don't want to talk about right now because I haven't shot it with this person yet, but it's going to be really exciting. There's someone in the world that you and I are passionate about who's going to be in the film in a significant role that I'm excited to announce soon. But other than that, it's mostly friends who are, who I've known for a while who are going to bring a lot to the movie, and also people behind the camera. Peter Petter shooting it with my friend Jeff Campbell, and those guys are putting a lot of passion behind the camera. It's funny. I think sometimes with the last film, people I don't know very well show up on set and they see these little cameras that we're shooting it with. They don't realize how good it's going to look.
Yeah.
And then when they came to see it, I own a movie theater with some friends here in Ottawa. When they saw it on the big screen with the audience, they were so impressed. Like the people who are working on this film know what they're doing, and it's gonna look. When you're on set, it might not feel like a James Bond production value, but some of the images do really look big. And then the music I have, the people who I've John Carroll and Dave Bignell who are involved with music in the movie. The music's the best part.
Yeah.
These really ramp up our low budget movies and make them seem I swear Dave Bignell's music over the years makes my films feel like a James Bond movie. I'm really, really, really impressed with knowing people like that.
Well,
And my other coach.
you name dropped everyone I was going to ask about. So like that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like that
I'm still
it's
friends with all of them.
well they what's neat about it is yeah, you kind of keep them around and like these guys like help shape and like these projects, but not only that, they help I guess keep your chaos cohesive. And I love it. I love that about like your
That's
projects.
That would be a good t-shirt.
I
Keeping
know, right?
chaos cohesive. That's
There you
good.
go.
And I see them a lot. So I'm not a big drinker, but I go to bars and I tell my wife, it's like I need to stay out late every once in a while because it's nice to be out and be inspired by people. It's nice to be around artists too, other people making movies. My friend Peter Monet made a film called Hot Knives a few years ago, and that gave me a kick in the ass to start making another movie. If you surround yourself with filmmakers, it's okay to feel a little envy because they'll make you go out and do. When I started, I joined the Independent Filmmakers Co-op of Ottawa, and I was surrounded by people making movies all the time, and that's a real kick in the ass. Let's go out and do.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I guess like what's crazy about all of this is that I can remember a time when I first started collecting physical media and I had to hunt down your films. Like I remember updating my what was it, DVD aficionado and adding Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter to my list. And so it's pretty cool, like to talk to you about the evolution of your legacy, really, because you have been called Canada's king of cult, and which is wild to be talking to you about that. But how does Dictos carry that legacy forward? Because it's Harry Knuckles, Jesus Christ, and then like it just seems like Enter the Drag Dragon is yeah. How does Dictos compete?
I think about that a lot. After I made Harry Knuckles and the Pearl Necklace, which was the last Harry Knuckles adventure, I got wrapped up into the industry, and I went to Mexico and I made two films in Mexico that I think about and I adore. The Dead Sleep Easy and Vampiro. The Dead Sleep Easy was a no budget movie we made in Guadalajara in 30 days, and I'm surprised we survived making that movie because we were surrounded by the Mexican mob all the time. But and then I made Smash Cut, which I adore. It's like, it's right up there for me. And one of the best times of my life was making that movie. But then I made two films after that, and I got wrapped up into a part of the film industry I didn't think I wouldn't like being on set. I felt like being on set felt like a chore, and I missed the days of longing to go to set and being with my friends and being passionate about what I was putting on the screen. So Enter the Drag Dragon brought me into that again. And Dictos, I kind of feel like I need to make up for the few years I got sucked into an ugly part of the industry. So, and legacy is something I think about all the time, not specifically mine, but you can see some older actors like Tom Cruise, who now seems to be not making movies to win an Oscar, but he's making movies because his fan expects something from him.
Mhm.
Whether you like it or not, he's trying hard to protect his own legacy and you can see that on some actors near the end of their career. Movies, like John Wayne's The Shootist was something he felt like his fans deserved. And Kirk Douglas and all these big names. who worked hard to protect what they gave the audiences over the years. Some people didn't care. Maybe that's why Bruce Willis got out of the industry too, and his family helped him because, he was making films that seemed a little unfamiliar to his fan base. So, yeah, I I definitely think Dictos falls into the realm of Harry Knuckles and Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter and Enter the Dragon, obviously, and so I would throw Smash Cut in there too. Um, but I feel like, yeah, I need to make these movies now for myself, uh, um, because that's what made me happy making movies. I felt, I had a dream. When you're an inspired filmmaker, you have a dream of making the Hollywood and breaking in and making, I was working on a James Bond film at one point, and I was working with bringing Jackie Chan to the screen, and I had all these big projects that slipped through my fingers. And and I didn't realize I was living the dream. I was living the dream with Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter and Harry Knuckles back in the day. And why not go back to that? I'm not, I'm satisfied knowing that I'm not going to be the next James Cameron. I'm not going to be the George Lucas or whatever it is. I'm fine being who I am. I'm fine making movies with no budgets because I'm at least happy on set. And that's important. I said to some of my cast and crew, it's like we're gonna make the best movie we can make. I really think it's gonna be something we can be proud of. But I also want to have fun on set and I want to be doing what we're doing. And when you make those movies, I made a feature film in 14 days, and that's not about making the best movie you can make. That's about getting through your days.
Yeah.
You have 14 days to make this movie, Lee. Okay, that's crazy. And you just need to get through your days. And that's not a way to create art. That's not putting your passion, your might, your weight on the camera. But now we're putting our weight where it belongs because we're satisfying ourselves creatively.
Um,
Luckily, we have audiences like it's Florida. I'm so privileged to know that, that our films might be in your collection back there.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
it's really exciting. And, the National Archives of Canada also just recently took all of my films, all of the films, all the silly movies we would make. So they'll be preserved in Canada, the National Archives. They say, up to 3,000 years in preservation. So my kids, if they care, go watch Dictos.
And that's the legacy. That's really the only legacy that matters at that point.
It's funny too who's attracted to Dictos. I walk my dog, like I said, and I know I met parents whose kids are interested in the film. I had these two young boys come up to me. It's like, what is Dictos about? And I was explaining to them, and it's nothing. It's not sexual, so it's just kind of fun and playful. So it was fun trying to tell these kids about the movie, and they seem really excited about it. They said, "Does he fly?" I'm like, I think, and I'm now trying to think, yeah, maybe he can fly. I'm still working on it. So maybe we can have a flying sequence. I can't see why he couldn't fly.
Yeah, why not? He has dictos.
I don't want to explain to you why where the ability comes from, but yeah, maybe it'll be fun to realize.
Well, like I said, it's been great talking to you about, dictos and everything that brought us to that point. But before I let you go, man, is there anything you want to mention or like where can people follow, the production? The floor is yours.
Thank you. I for the first time in a long time, I was convinced to start a website. For throughout Enter the Dragon, I didn't know why I needed a website. I just told people, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook. But my publicist just told me, Ingrid, she said, make a website for this movie because dictos.com is going to be something people are going to laugh and check out. So we now have dictos.com. There's only a few photos up there right now, but we're about to post. So yesterday I got some real nice glamour shots of Dictos himself. He wears a wrestling mask that looks a lot like the Danger Diabolic mask, but he's a not only is a private detective, but he's a luchador as well. So we'll have some posts about Dictos. You'll have some pictures up there from the movie soon. So that if you're interested, dictos.com is a real thing. It doesn't sound like it should be. It's almost as outrageous as the movie itself. I just love saying dictos.com. So that's where you can follow us. And thanks for asking me that question because I haven't pushed a website in a long time. I needed someone to kick myself in the ass to do a website. So there it is.
Awesome.
You don't need to follow my stupid pictures of my dog on Instagram. You can go to dictos.com. Uh,
Well, there you have it, Lee. Here at CineDump, we let the doers know how they're doing, and you are doing just fine. Again, thank you so much for your time, and yeah, look forward to Dictos in a couple of years. You can follow the production at dictos.com.
I love hearing you say the title. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
I
thank
keep
you.
I keep like having to question myself. Is that right?
I don't even need to make a good movie. I just need people who are saying that and
Yeah.
laughing. We will make a good movie. Don't
Oh.
get me wrong, but we don't have to. I'm kidding. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it.